Hello, this is Rudy Giuliani, back with Rudy's Common Sense. And today we are going to delve into one of the Chinese transactions so that you can get an idea of the incriminating documents that are in this hard drive. Remember, just to put it in context, during the time that Joe Biden was the Vice President of the United States, we now have located 5 transactions with foreign countries, which he claims he knew nothing about, which has been disproven by the text messages and emails showing his meeting with a high official of Burisma, which he lied about, and also has been disproven by the sworn testimony of Mr. Bobulinski, who is a partner in the transaction we're about to describe, and also several other emails and texts that show that he had a good deal of familiarity with his son's foreign dealings. But he had more than familiarity with it. He was getting paid part of the money that his son was getting, and that's what we're going to show you here. But let's just remind you of the context of this. Joe was named the point man in Iraq. His brother James got 1/3 of a $1.5 billion housing contract at exactly that same time, and made a substantial amount of money on that. And that money was given in part to the vice president, and in part was used by James to pay for expenses for the vice president and his wife, Jill. Ukraine was mainly a transaction involving Hunter Biden as the bag man. Hunter was hired for a no-show job and got paid upwards of about $14 million altogether. And that was as a bribe to Joe in order to have the case dropped on the crooked company Burisma for Mykola Zlochevsky, a member of Ukrainian organized crime, a fugitive at the time, and a man who had stolen $5 billion from Ukraine, which was all forgiven when Joe had the prosecutor fired and the president of the country ordered that the case be dismissed. Joe, again, received half of that money, at least, from Hunter. And by the way, the president of Ukraine received a bribe of between $50 and $100 million. That was Poroshenko, Joe's good friend. The Russia deal involved a $3.5 million payment, actually $4 million, when you see 2 more payments that come in, to Hunter, some of that going to Joe according to the arrangement we're going to show you in a minute. And that was in order to set up a money laundering operation. And we'll go into detail on that one in a subsequent episode. China is the one we're going to go through now, and Kazakhstan was a small payment, $2 million, that went through Hunter, half of which went to Joe. So China is the one we're going to discuss now. And China is the big money. There are 2 main transactions with China. One we've been through many times, and that's the one in which Joe Biden brings Hunter Biden to China with him. Joe is supposed to get us relief from tariffs, and Joe is supposed to get China to back off the islands they had militarized that they dispute with Japan. Joe failed miserably in doing that, but Hunter got a $1 billion commitment from China, from the Bank of China, about 8 days later. And the Bank of China became a partner in his fund called Bohai Harvest. So Bank of China, Chinese government, became a partner with Hunter Biden, son of the vice president, with Chris Hines, stepson of the Secretary of State, and a gentleman named James Bulger, who ran a company called Thornhill, which was their partner, and that was the nephew of one of the most notorious organized criminals in the United States, Whitey Bulger. And the 4th partner was the government of China. So while Joe Biden was negotiating for the United States of America and failing, his son was a partner with the government of China, and you didn't know that. We don't know if Obama knew it. If he did, he kept it from you. If he didn't, probably was the most incompetent president that ever existed in the White House. It would be unthinkable that he wouldn't know that the son of his vice president was in business with one of our fiercest rivals in the world. Only a Democrat can get away with that because of our crooked media. But then when he left the vice presidency, after having made millions, probably made 30 million, the family did, while he was vice president. That's how he afforded, 5 homes on a senator's salary. So after he left, the Chinese wanted to really wrap him up. And this operation I'm going to describe to you, and you might not see it at first, this is an intelligence operation. There's a letter here in December 14th of 2010, and I mentioned this to you because it will become relevant later. It's from Sean McGarvey to Robert Biden, and it describes Joe Biden as the big guy. You're going to see why that's relevant in a minute, but this goes back to 2010. And then there's another document here in 2013 from a friend of Hunter's who says, big night in Leipzig. The big guy made them happy. And right below, there's an indication that Vice President Joe Biden stopped off to say hello and serve dinner at the Leipzig Fire Hall. So the big guy is Joe Biden. I want you to remember that. That's his nickname. The big guy is Joe Biden. December 2nd, 2014. Here are the documents that put together Bohai Harvest. And Bohai Harvest is the company that was formed with the 4 partners that I mentioned to you. Hunter, Chris Hines, Whitey Bulge's nephew, and the government of China. Just in case, you think we kind of made that up. Here's the document in the hard drive that the American media and American big tech doesn't want you to see. But you can see it during my podcast, and then you can examine it on my website. It exists, it's real, it's authentic, and it's disgraceful that the son of the vice president was a partner with the government of China when he was supposed to be negotiating for us and failing. The next document, in chronological order, shows that as they were putting these 2 deals together, the one while he was vice president and the one for later, so they could take care of him after he left the office, here's a letter from James Gillier, who is one of the partners in the company that they're going to form with the Chinese communists. And he points out to Jim Biden that he wants to make sure, he says, I have asked Joe to look over the documents. Just so you understand that Joe is a material part of this, which is completely contrary to his 8-year lie that he had no involvement in these foreign businesses. I have asked Joe to look over the doc. Just in case, and there's a second copy of it, a little easier to see. Let's take a short break, but remember to come back. We've got some very powerful documents to come up. Free speech, religious liberty, the Second Amendment. Across the country, our constitutional rights are under constant attack, and it's only getting worse by the day, which is why I am proud to support Patriot Mobile. They're not just America's only Christian conservative cell phone provider. They are one of the few companies fighting back. They offer the same nationwide coverage as the major carriers. So you get the same great service, plus the peace of mind that your money is combating the left's attempt to silence us. Patriot Mobile has plans to fit any budget, and their 100% US-based customer support team provides exceptional customer support. Patriot Mobile shares our values and supports organizations fighting for religious freedom, constitutional rights, the sanctity of life, and our veteran and first responders. Go to patriotmobile.com/Rudy or call 972-PATRIOT. Get free activation with the offer code RUDY. Veterans and first responders save even more, so make the switch today. Between the left, the media, and the rhinos, We need to fight back. PatriotMobile.com/Rudy. PatriotMobile.com/Rudy, or call 972-PATRIOT. Thank you for returning, and let's get back into these incriminating documents. They really are powerful. And then we get to the negotiations of this agreement. Here is a message. Looks like a screenshot of a message, and it comes from the Chinese, and Hunter responds to them, "Everything. We can do everything. The only thing I told him I would not do is defense-related technology and arms, and anything that would give the Chinese a military advantage." By the way, they didn't stick to that. They did do deals involving defense and where Chinese had an advantage. And here is another letter, April 18, 2017, talking about a report to the director of the company, the Chinese communists who owned, the name of the company they're negotiating with is CEFC. It's a Chinese major energy company run by two intelligence operatives that may in fact be a front for Chinese intelligence operations. And here is a letter again to James Biden explaining that the deal has been now cleared with Director Zhang, who's the number two guy in CEFC. And he says, please convey his greetings to the B family. Their support is the base of CEFC's further development. But when they say the B family and their support is the base of further development, you know they're talking about the big guy, Joe Biden, who they're trying to wrap up on the chance that he's going to become president, and they can compromise him. That's what these people do for a living. That's why I said they're intelligence operatives, not just businessmen. And here's the killer document, the document that should put Joe in jail. This is the real deal, as that limited mentality senator and vice president would describe it. This is the real deal. This is the real partners. The real partners are the three Chinese communists, Xi Jinping, Stanley Ho, and Guang Wendong. Those are the three Chinese communists. On the other side, the partners are James Biden, James Biden's wife, brother and sister-in-law, and Hunter Biden. That'll be on the official contract. But here's the underlying document. The underlying document says 20% for Hunter, 20% for James, 20% for the wife, 20% for Gilliers, Gilliers, 20% for Bobulinski. And then, in addition to Hunter's 20%, Hunter gets another 10%. And it says 10 held by H for the big guy. Now, you don't have to figure out who the big guy is, because in the prior documents, we already identified the big guy. I know the New York Times and the Washington Post and the NBC and ABC and all these big tech companies, they can't figure out who could the big guy be. Gee, it couldn't be my friend Joe Biden. Couldn't be that he's a crook and getting 10% from the Chinese communists. Couldn't be. Except if they would ever take a look at the hard drive, they would see that two documents here identify him as the big guy. And just in case, one of the partners has turned state's evidence, as they say, and has given an affidavit to the FBI that many, many times in his presence, Hunter referred to his father as the big guy, that Joe Biden was a material part of this transaction, that Joe Biden got money from this transaction, and that Joe Biden actually got a lot more than 10%. And you're going to see how in just a few minutes. Then we have the backup document. So this is now May 17th, 2017. And Tony checks that My partner will be partners with the Bidens. Now listen to this one. He has made clear that the number one has made clear that everything will be available to him. Who's number one? Who's the number one? Oh, I guess we'll have to guess at that. I mean, we can't figure out that that's Joe Biden, I guess, that the big guy is also referred to as number one. But in case you have problems with that, shortly thereafter, they give out the keys to the office, and the number one key goes to Joe Biden, and the number two key goes to Jill Biden for a business that he has no involvement in? Or is it a business in which he's getting at least 10% of the millions and millions that are going to be made with the Chinese? I think he's number one. What do you think? Think a jury would convict him based on it? I think so. And now, just in case, they're having a discussion between business associate Robert Walker and with Tony Bobulinski. When he said his chairman, he was talking about his dad. And I think your dismissal of it maybe offended him a bit, but you didn't know what he was talking about. Let it go till the morning if we can. Makes clear he's the chairman of this operation. There's another document to that effect, dated, this one is dated in 2017, May 19th, 2017. And then one that is highly incriminating. This one, I would say, would be, along with the 10%, hidden 10%, these would be critical to convicting him in front of a jury. This is James Giuliani warning Tony Bobulinski, don't mention Joe being involved. It's only when you are face to face. I know that, but they are paranoid. That's on May 20th, 2017. So they're going to lie and hide the fact that Joe Biden is the chairman, the big guy, getting at least 10% of the $10 million, $30 million, at least. Why are they going to hide it? That's called evidence of criminal intent. Because they're committing a crime. That's why they're going to hide it. And then we have a document in June in which Hunter is very angry at Tony because Tony is, I can't even read these words, these are bad words, but he's very angry at Tony because Tony appears to be worried that Hunter may be stealing money from the other partners. And you're going to find that the Bidens aren't even honorable thieves among other thieves. I mean, they're just a thoroughly dishonorable family. Here's the breakdown. Can't tell you for sure whose handwriting it's in, but it's in the hard drive. And there's a little sketch on August 1st, 2017, of the company they're about to form. See, there's the chairman on this side is Mr. Yi Jinping, who is a high-level member of the Chinese Communist Party, Chinese intelligence operative. Oh, and by the way, to get an idea, he's also a member of organized crime. Mr. Yi Jinping could not testify at this trial because he's now sitting below the Yangtze River, way down near the bottom. He kind of disappeared like a lot of the people the Bidens did business with. Mr. Ho is in federal prison, so he could stand trial. And Mr. Dong is fully available to get arrested and go to trial. He lives here in Long Island. And then all the Bidens, could go to trial for this fraud that they were involved in. So 50% for the Chinese communists, 50% for the Bidens, Giuliani, and Bobulinski, and the name of the company is Hudson West. Very nice name for the company. Here is the deal sheet. This is the phony deal sheet, only in the sense that Joe's name is left out of it. You got to go get the hidden memo to figure out that Joe's part of it, and you can't mention Joe. You can't mention Joe because it's a crime. That's why you can't mention it. And this basically just outlines a deal. It's going to be consulting fees of $10 million per year to the Biden group for a total of $30 million. And then Once they make a profit, 50-50 split. 50% for the Bidens, 50% for the Chinese communists, of which, remember, Joe gets 10% of that as well. And then there are very, very detailed instructions of how it's going to be carried out. And you cannot, if you go through this, because I guess this is a public document, you can't find Joe in here. He's the chairman. He's the big guy. He gets 10%, but we can't find his name in here. And everybody's been instructed not to mention Joe's name. We'll be back in a short while. Think your homeowner's insurance covers home title fraud? Think again. And neither does your common identity theft program. The FBI calls home title fraud one of the fastest growing crimes, which is why you need to go to HomeTitleLock.com, America's leader in home title protection. Here's the problem. The deed to your home is the only document that proves you own it. And the deeds to all of our homes now are online. In minutes, a criminal can find and forge your name off the deed to your home and refile as the new owner. Like Jeff, who spent a fortune in legal fees after a thief forged himself onto the deed to Jeff's home and took out loans. Jeff didn't have home title lock then. He does now. Or Deborah, who thought our common identity theft service would protect her. Then a criminal got onto the deed to a home and had her evicted. Deborah has home title lock now. HomeTitleLock.com is your peace of mind, and the deed to your home is protected. Visit HomeTitleLock.com. HomeTitleLock.com. Thank you for returning, and let's get back into this narrative. Then the Bidens do a little side deal. The Bidens go behind the back of their partners, Gilliers and Bobulinski, and they negotiate a interest-free, forgivable $10 million loan. Interest-free, forgivable $10 million loan. I mean, that's the way you launder money. And there's an official document, July 26, 2017. It shows that the Chinese energy company, CEFC, proposed at first a $5 billion interest-free loan to the Biden family based on their trust in the Biden family. It's not to Hunter, it's to the Biden family. And then you have an actual transfer of $4.8 million of it on August 8, 2017. And according to the 10% document, that would entitle Joe to a minimum of $480,000 when that transfer was made. And here are all the wire instructions and the transfer. People keep wondering, did Joe get any money? Yeah, he got money. New York Times just lies about it. They lie about everything. So, $4.8 million forgivable loan. And that's what really causes the break with Bobulinski and Gilliers, because they're not told about this. This money was supposed to go to the company, but Hunter grabbed it for himself because Hunter steals from his partners as well as takes bribes for his father. Also, Hunter negotiates a separate little deal for himself. This little deal, actually, he's not only going to not tell his outside partners about, he doesn't tell his family about this one. There's a little note here. Send this to me directly. So Hunter is a member of a law firm. Hunter defrauds the law firm out of this fee. He defrauds the business out of this fee, and he gets $1 million separate just from CEFC for him on September 22nd, 2017. Nice guy, right? Not even honor among thieves. I mean, I prosecuted some mafia guys that were more honorable than this. They wouldn't cheat each other because they would kill each other if they found out. But I mean, you're going to find out that this family is really, really a wretched family. Now, let's make it easy to figure out what this deal has been for the last 30 years for all these transactions and everything else. And this is now dated January 3rd, 2019. And I'm going to read this to you and really want you to look at this a lot, because this is, if there are there are two documents that explain everything you need to know about them. This document says, I love all of you, but I don't receive any respect, and that's fine, I guess. Works for you, apparently. He's writing to his daughter, Naomi Biden, on January 3rd, 2019 at 7:39 p.m. I hope you all can do what I did and pay for everything for this entire family for 30 years. It's really hard, but don't worry. Unlike Pop, I won't make you give me half your salary. There's the formula. The money doesn't go directly to Joe. The money goes to Hunter, or it goes to James, or it goes to Sarah. Half of it ultimately goes to Joe. Whether directly or indirectly, it goes to Joe, or it's in Joe's name. And that's how Joe was able to buy 5 houses on the salary of a senator. You know, Harry Truman used to say, you can always figure out who the crooked politicians are. Real simple. People who start off in government poor and end up rich. And the richer they are, the bigger they are a crook. That was good old Democrat Harry Truman, who just had plain old common sense. Well, Joe Biden started off with, and he ended up with millions and millions and millions of dollars. Just during the vice presidency, about 30. Isn't that disgraceful? And isn't it disgraceful he's being given immunity for that? So just go over this, read it, digest it. This didn't come from Russia. This wasn't written by a Russian. This was written by Hunter Biden to his daughter. In the law, we call this an admission. This would come into evidence in the trial of the Bidens for racketeering for all the many, many, many schemes in which they sold Joe Biden's office and the anticipatory sale of his office here in this transaction and the fraud involved. Now, just to get an idea of who they deal with, these documents, which are screenshots, tell you what happened to the number one guy in this company. So we'll put these screenshots up for you to see, and you'll see that the media, that China's CEF chairman is investigated. Then he's investigated for suspected bribery. And then Shanghai actually has to take over the Biden company, CEFC, for corruption. And then it turns out that his number 2 guy, Patrick Ho gets arrested in the United States, and he's denied bail in a bribery case. And the first person he calls is James Biden, his partner. And these are bribes carried out to gain profit for their company. So why isn't there a Foreign Corrupt Practices Act investigation of the Bidens? The FBI had this. You know why there isn't? Because the Bidens are immune from everything. They don't get investigated like the Clintons. And we got to figure out how that corruption seeped into the FBI and the Justice Department. But it's disgraceful. And it is destroying our system of justice in this country. We got 2 systems. One for the Clintons, the Bidens, and the Democrats, and then one for everybody else. And then one for Donald Trump, where he's investigated for things he didn't do. And then the company is seized because of a bribery. That's their company. And here is a very, very chilling note. This is from Devin Archer, Hunter's partner. This is from Devin Archer to Hunter. It's only partial, but I'd say it's quite chilling. Complete cash. The Chinese have arrested and apparently fully stripped and possibly already executed my partner. And I gave away my last 5,000, goes on to him. This discussing Xi Jinping. This is the kind of people they do business with. People who get executed and put at the bottom of the Yangtze River. So, you want proof? New York Times? You want proof? Twitter? You want proof? Facebook? You want proof, you corrupt, lying whatever you are, here's the proof. I didn't write it. Russians didn't write it, and I didn't get the 30 million. Your prince got it. The Prince of Darkness, Joe Biden, the guy who used his son, a drug addict, to be his bag man. Why do you think his son lost his teeth at 40 years old? Because under this kind of pressure, working with murderers and organized criminals like Mykola Zlochevsky and Elena Buturina and Xi Jinping at the bottom of the river, and Whitey Bulger's nephew. What do you think happens to a drug addict, Dad, when you put him in with people like that? He becomes a much worse drug addict. He becomes a degenerate drug addict. You couldn't find some bum in Washington to do this for you? You had to use your son and ruin his life? And you want to be president of our country? My goodness, you should check in to the local federal prison and start doing your time. That's where you belong, not in the White House. You used your family to pick up your bribes, hide your bribes, live the life of a billionaire. And by the way, I don't think you failed in all those negotiations just because you're stupid. I think you failed in those negotiations because you sold out the United States of America. That's what I think you did. And you were ready to do it again if we didn't catch you. This whole deal was done in anticipation of your being president with the Chinese intelligence services. And I don't care if the liberal media covers up for you. Some of them are just as corrupt as you are. And some of them are so taken with hatred, they can't see the better good of their country. They're willing to sell out our entire country just to get rid of Donald Trump. Joe, you've been a thief for 30 years. Your son says it right here. It would be a tragedy for this country. Our system of justice would be ruined if you're not brought before the bar of justice and held accountable the way any ordinary American would be. Until we fix that, we don't fix this country.